sell and incentivize the benefits of walkability in health? Who would like to first answer that? Dr. Ko?
Oh, okay. So, shocked. Well, I think it's really important, and I just love what we heard just now, especially because I've got aging parents too, and I've always said to them, you got to walk, and they won't walk. Now I'm hearing how I can actually incentivize them to walk. But for the average population, how can we incentivize them to walk? I think there are a lot of things that we could do together. We can, as a society, promote walking. But there are things that employers could do, and there's certainly other things like even insurance company can promote that actually would encourage people to take up healthier lifestyles, including walking.
Well, as I think it was the second slide of my presentation, I showed a model which we call socio-ecological model of physical activity and health. And that showed that there are many, many different factors that impact on behavior, and that was also mentioned by Professor Wu, right? So it's important to create an environment where people can be active. That's clear. Without having that environment, even if you're really very motivated, you won't do it because it's either inconvenient, you don't have the time, you have to drive somewhere, etc. So having the environment is important. That's a prerequisite. Then you get to the individual factors, individual barriers, like lack of time, I don't like it, I don't know how to do it, etc. So these are these barriers. How do we get over that? We can do intervention, sure. Or we can engage, we can try to change people's perception of what's, someone said, cool. Yeah, is it cool to actually drive a car, or is it cool to cycle or walk? So that's a perception, cultural level. You can do that through media. You can do that through, I guess, promotions, right? Large-scale promotions. But there's one thing that we showed, for example, in the Lancet paper that comes up all the time, is that walkability in itself explains an increasing physical activity that meets 60% of the guidelines. So basically, by shaping the environment, we can address the problem of low physical activity quite effectively on a large scale and in a sustainable way as well, because that lasts for many years. It's not an intervention that's for a month. So that's very important. And what it is important for is that it targets people that don't like being active. So if I don't want to be active, but I have an environment that actually makes me active because I have to go from A to B, it's inconvenient to drive a car, and I'm going to be active, I won't even think about it. And I'm just going to tell you one little piece of information that's quite I think it's informative, it's really important. When we compare physical activity measured by self-reports and objectively measure physical activity in Hong Kong, we get reverse effects that we see elsewhere. So people underestimate their level of activity. Elsewhere, they overestimated. So that basically means that they are active, they don't even know they're being active, which is really an important thing because it targets people that don't want to be active. A lot of people don't like being active. Too many, actually. But they are the vulnerable population, right? So anyway, put in context.
Thank you very much, Professor Wu.
Yeah, so that's why Hong Kong is so good, you see. You do activity, you don't even know it. And that's because of what we think is the horrible environment. So actually, yeah, I agree. Physical environment and personal. For the physical, if you look at contrasting regions in Hong Kong, it's very instructive. If you look at a new town like Sha Tin, which used to be nothing, and then it was very well designed and built, compared with the old part, like Sam Shui Bo, those areas. If you compare what people do there, So Sha Tin, you have the river, and then you have walks and things. Actually, you see a lot of people walking and cycling, and nobody told them to do it. They just did it, right? In some people, well, there's nowhere to walk, really, is there? Now, for personal, I think look at all ages. Even if you're young, you look at a computer, you use imagination. Now the Japanese are very good. There's a thing called Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
And then you have intergenerational activity. I mean, it's good for everything. And they move around. Except that some people now apparently do it on the tram. You know, the tram can take them to whatever. So that's a bad thing. But if you're getting in middle age, you start to be concerned about your health. And what are you afraid of? I think most people used to be afraid of cancer, heart disease, but I think now people are more afraid of having dementia, for example. And so you identify these thinking, and you say, hey, if you have healthy lifestyle, particularly midlife, you can reduce the risk of late life dementia. And highlighting these facts might be very good personal motivators. And having said that, then you can show them what they can do, and they say, oh yeah, I can do that too, and incorporate it into daily lives. So I think those are possible strategies.
I was going to say, that's another great endorsement for Sha Tin Newtown, because we heard on day one how you can go get a girlfriend, get married, unfortunately get divorced as well, so we can add your name to the reviews there. It's outstanding. I just want to quickly go to one question, and I think it's a point that Professor Serin alluded to. So this is a comment from Dennis Lee from Metro Societies, and I hope I've got or Metro Solutions, I believe. So hopefully I've got the name right. The parks in Hong Kong are the most restrictive. We can't cycle, we can't walk dogs, we can't roller skate, we can't feed the birds. The list goes on. Compared with other parks in other parts of the world, should there be a shift in paradigm to change the Hong Kong parks to a place of fun? I'm just wondering what the entire panel, first of all, Professor Serin thinks.
Well, I guess there's many different types of parks, right? You have very large parks in Hong Kong where people go hiking. We have actually seen that vicinity to parks and green areas in Hong Kong in relation to physical activity, especially in older adults, is actually negatively related with physical activity. And that was mainly due to the fact that they're really on steep terrain. So they're really steep, so that is an issue. But what we're finding is there are actually little pocket parks are quite important. And that's something that is coming up from our IPEN study as well. So smaller parks within urban areas, they're quite conducive to being physically active. Why is that the case? I mean, we haven't really looked at the mechanisms, but possibly it enhances the aesthetics of the environment, and may also, they may become hubs for meeting points for people, and especially if they're sitting areas, the meeting points for people where they can actually talk and socialize, etc. And by actually going there, just walking there to do some exercise, you don't have to jump around.
Yeah, you don't know you're doing the exercise if you're just walking there.
You're actually walking to a park, you're coming back. That's something. It may add 20 minutes of physical activity, I should say, to your day. But what should we do here? Well, I think there should be a bit of also community consultation and see a bit what they want and what's possible as well, given that the terrain in Hong Kong is quite challenging. Yeah.
So I suppose for Dennis, I suppose what Professor Serin is alluding to is, if you have a collective voice, if you want some change in your parks, then see if you can take action that way. And I think it goes across the whole theme of walkability. With one louder voice, you can hopefully make some change, and it's something that's been echoed throughout the conference here at Walk21. I just want to turn the question slightly on its head. So, Professor Wu, I noticed going to Hong Kong parks, you see in the early morning, late at night, elderly people in particular in Hong Kong, they're using the facilities to do Tai Chi or other kinds of exercises or stretches. I suppose on that measure, is Hong Kong's aging population doing better by enjoying more outdoor activities?
Yeah, I think so, because Hong Kong is very compact. If you compare with other countries, in the States, you get out of your house and there's just nothing, right? Here, you can go out, you see your neighbors, you can reach, it could be just a square, it could be a little open space. And so I'm sure having built the city like that, it actually encourages this kind of activity. And I think this is why Hong Kong is rated quite highly in this domain of enabling environment in the Global H-Watch Index.
Thank you. I just have a question for Dr. Ko, and it comes from Alvaro Valera Sosa from TU in Berlin. Have you assessed the conditions of healthcare staff at hospitals, clinical care, workplaces? If so, where? And if so, what? Can you tell us about your findings?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Have you assessed the conditions of healthcare staff at hospitals, in hospital workplaces? And if so, where and what can you tell us about the findings?
Okay. So I think that I don't have Asian data, but certainly in the UK, the government, the Department of Health, carry out annual staff survey about staff satisfaction, and linked to that is also about staff at the environment that you work in, and it takes a very holistic view about health and well-being. So everything from bullying to harassment to how you conceive work and job satisfaction, as well as all the lifestyle behaviors, risk factors of stress, drinking too much, eating too much, not walking enough, and so on. So, and this data are published. But I think that what we want to do is actually, if we have the opportunity of measuring those in Hong Kong or in Asia, and that would be fantastic. Not just in hospitals or in healthcare, but across all workplaces. I think, of course, there is a belief that people who work in healthcare should actually be walking the talk, right? Should actually be fitter and so on. And that is true. I know that, across countries, all of the evidence shows that smoking rates is lowest amongst doctors, for example. So they do know, but a small minority still does. But other healthcare workers may smoke more.
What about drinking?
Well, we don't want to go there, right? Yeah, that's why it's gone to 4,460 now. Yes. Drinking is actually becoming a bigger problem in Asia. So whilst our life expectancy in Hong Kong and elsewhere has never been better, for the next generation across the world, we're not sure that it's actually going to be much, much better, because we are now indulging in less physical activity with the internet, with a sedentary lifestyle, and of course, more people are drinking in Asia, although smoking is dropping due to policies and so on. So I think that this is a case of wait and see.
Okay. I have a question for the entire panel. It doesn't have a name. Pretty straightforward. With the pollution level in Hong Kong, is walking outdoors dangerous to health?
Yeah, well, I can start. Yeah. So pollution obviously is an important factor. And so we need to look at different districts. Certain districts are heavily polluted. There's 7 pollutants. We need to understand the individual impact of each pollutant on health. So we need to do that research. But you don't have to walk outdoors. There are lots of miles and miles of air-conditioned malls where you can walk along. But you don't have to look at the shops, right? Just walk fast.
Just wondering, one question of my own. What impact do you think Pokemon Go has had on walkability? And can any of you or any of you in the room admit to playing Pokemon Go? Well done. Anyone else? Pokemon Go fans? There we go. I was expecting more young people as well. I can't admit to playing Pokemon Go, and I've actually seen in one of the shopping malls lots of people, hordes of people running like zombies for these pocket monsters and actually falling over each other. So actually it provides some amusement and delight. But back to the question, I mean, what impact do you think Pokemon Go has had on walkability and walking?
I'll have a go. Well, we all see them out there chasing their Pokemon. I think it's been an incredible invention. And certainly when it first came out and it was launched, and I see everyone going with their iPad or phone chasing this and striking it, and I thought, oh wow, if only companies like AIA could, right? Immediately I was thinking, if only we could link up that the moment how many Pokemons you catch, maybe we can give you points to reward you for coffee, because it is about healthier living. And so this is, I mean, we currently in AIA have AIA Vitality, which actually promotes and rewards healthy living. But I think that we need to be quicker and more responsive and more dynamic and agile so that as developments come up, we can then link so that people live in real time and we could do the same.
Pokemon Goers in Australia are a health hazard. They ended up driving in a car and going off roads and bumping into people. And so it depends on the context. It hasn't happened yet here, hopefully. But I mean, it can increase. It may increase walking in certain population segments of the population
Especially
who don't like to
elderly
walk.
people.
So that becomes an incentive to doing something and getting out of your house, or instead of really looking on your computer and playing Pokemon on the computer, you play on your phone outside. So that's a bit of an improvement, perhaps, if we avoid injuries, because they have been happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
One final question. It doesn't have a name again. How do you define walkability, i.e. what's the difference between walkability and physical activities or sports?
Well, walking is walking. I mean, tennis is tennis. I mean, don't quite understand.
So, I mean, walkability is a feature of the environment, and we're talking about sport, and walking, these are behaviors. But, yeah.
I suppose I'm going to assume, just to the style of the question, they probably see walking as not such a physical activity. So therefore, how do we tell them that it is a physical activity, and tell them that this does actually provide health benefits?
Well, I guess then the public has to be informed if they don't understand the implications of walking and strolling in the streets. That this is a form of physical activity. You spend energy, you move your muscles, you move your legs, and therefore it's a form of physical activity. Exercise is a planned form of physical activity, the purpose of being fitter, and that's a bit different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the evidence supporting walkability, which I thank you for the definition, is actually ability to walk in the environment, right? The evidence is without doubt. We don't even need to go there. But I think this is something, just like with all things public health, you have to work in partnership, in collaboration with multi-sectors, with the government and with businesses and so on, so that we promote this health literacy so people understand how important walking is. The one thing that people can do to improve their health by far is walking. And Hong Kong, actually, I find is very walkable. Since I moved to Hong Kong earlier this year, I haven't got a car. I walk everywhere. I walk to work, I walk to the station, and I love it here. So I think that there might be pollution, but I walk at 6 a.m. in the morning on the Bowen Road. So it is great. And I just hope that the population appreciates that you can walk wherever you are. You just have to find the place that works for you.
Even walking and eating, walking and drinking, but not alcoholic drinks. Thank you very much indeed to my panelists. Give them a big round of applause.